Mommispace, a place where you can remember who you are in the midst of it all. This podcast gives moms of all stages a voice to share their experiences and the truth that there is no right way to mom. Welcome back to Mommispace. This is Bree, and today I'm here with my sweet friend Miriam Longinow. Miriam, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Yes. Miriam and I know each other from actually working together. Just I think like 3 or 4 years ago now. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so excited to have you on the show to share your journey of becoming a mama. But before we kind of dive in, will you just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're located, and what family life looks like, and what daily life looks like for you right now?
Yeah. So I'm Miriam. My husband is Matt. We've been married almost 5 years. We're coming up on our fifth anniversary at the end of this month, at the end of August.
Wow.
So
Oh my gosh.
isn't that crazy? Like when we met, Bree, I think Matt
Yes.
and I were married like a couple of years. You and Brandon had like been dating, and then, I
Yes.
mean, it just was,
That's
oh my gosh,
right.
seems like forever ago. But
So crazy. I
yeah, so
know.
we're coming up on that first, it feels like big milestone anniversary.
Yeah.
And we're living in Brea. We have a little 14-month-old boy. His name is Aiden, and he's our first and only right now. And so I work 4 days a week in Irvine, which is with traffic like an hour, 45 minutes to an hour away from Brea. And so we have Aiden in daycare 4 days a week. And then my husband works over in like Yorba Linda, Anaheim Hills area with a business, and he works full time. So it's busy work, home, bath time, dinner. I mean, working moms just, they get it, and I just went part-time a couple months ago. So I was working full-time
Nice.
most of Aiden's little life. And so it's really
Wow.
nice to just have that day off in the middle of the week to just be with him. So
Wow.
that's been a big gift.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. So I definitely want to get into kind of your journey with working as a mom, and just kind of how that looks for you. But first, could you kind of share the story of your journey into motherhood? Like, were you guys planning to have a baby? Were you trying? Yeah, just share that story with us.
Yeah. So Aiden's story is gosh, every time I think about it, I'm just amazed. I'm amazed at God. I'm amazed at what He
Mm.
does. And so I have always wanted to be a mom. And I think Matt makes this joke that, like, maybe on our first date, I brought up like the Duggars, the family that's like 19 kids and counting. And I'm like, that is so awesome. Like, I aspire to be like that,
No
like
way.
just so
No way.
haphazardly throwing that
Oh
out
my
there. And
God.
it's so embarrassing when he tells people
Oh
that, because I'm like, I
my
sound like a crazed, like maniac. But all to say, I have always loved kids, and I've always wanted to be a mom. And I have just felt for so
God.
long like that was my calling. And even though
Mm.
I didn't know what it would look like, I've just always felt like God has put that heart in me. So,
Mm.
actually getting married, like aside from maybe that conversation, Matt and I didn't really ever talk about starting a family. And not
Mm.
because we didn't want to, we just didn't have a timeline. And then after we got married, I was like, oh, I'm automatically on the baby train. Like, I want to start a family right away. And so we started talking about it after we got married. And that's when I found out he was kind of like, maybe no, like pump the brakes. So I think one of your other moms that you interviewed, I think, was kind of similar. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, I was in
Mm-hmm.
this season of just like submitting and waiting and giving this desire firstly to Jesus, and yet also respecting and honoring that in myself, like not trying to push that desire away of like, oh, that's bad, I
Mm.
shouldn't want that, or I shouldn't want it right now, not belittling myself in the meantime,
Mm.
but really trusting that God had a better idea of what that meant than I did.
Mm.
And in that, trusting my husband's judgment too, and like respecting his feelings of when he
So
was
sweet.
ready to become a dad. And
Yeah.
all of that being said is so ironic because we were not expecting to get pregnant when we did. So it's not like it was either
No
one of our
way.
choices. Yeah.
Oh.
Aiden was a complete surprise. Yeah. So when I was 15, I was actually diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome and put on the pill to kind of ease the side effects of that. And I've since learned, more natural remedies to manage it. But anyway, I went off of the pill, like, I guess we would have been married 2.5 or 3 years. We were living in Reading at the time. And I went off of the pill and did the Whole30, which, like, big plug for Whole30. Man, that
Mm.
program healed so much of my body. And while we were
Wow.
doing the Whole30, I ended up getting pregnant and I didn't know that I was pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was the first time, like, Brie, I'm telling you, I wanted a baby so bad. Even when I was on birth control, I was taking pregnancy tests, like hoping that I would be one of the
No
like
way.
1% that birth control didn't work for, like, so
Wow.
I just was so like excited for that season. So when I found out I was pregnant, it was actually because I was having a lot of ovarian pain and it felt like a cyst rupture. So
Wow.
I was like, oh, I guess it's just, a cyst. I didn't know I was pregnant yet. And it wasn't going away. And so I just didn't. And we were in Reading. I didn't have a doctor there yet. We had like just moved there. And I just didn't really know what to do. So I called my mom. She's like, you should just take a pregnancy test just in case. And I'm like, yeah, that's definitely not it. Because all the tests I had taken in the past were negative. I'm like, yeah, for sure, I'm not pregnant. And then like
Wow.
PCOS, you never know how things are going to be and whatever. So took a test. And sure enough, that sucker came back positive like immediately. And I
Wow.
broke out in like a cold sweat. I was like, what's happening to me? Like, no way, no way. So there was this like,
Oh my
whoa, this is
gosh.
super cool. And then it was this moment of like almost panic of like, wait, but this doesn't seem right. Like this hurts really bad and the pain's
Mm.
not going away. And um, so
Mm.
it was this really bizarre, like, I'm so excited that this is positive and I'm really scared that this is not normal. So I told Matt and
Mm.
his first response, and just grace to dad's grace, like his first
Oh,
response,
totally.
he was like upset, because it was a Reading, when we lived in Reading, that was a
Yeah.
really hard time for us. And Matt was unemployed for a lot of the year that we were up there. And then, here I am with a lot of pain that like I'm missing work 'cause I'm in so much pain. And then finding out that
Oh.
that's, because I'm pregnant. And it just was a really tough time. It was a surprise for both of us. So he was pretty upset. And so I remember just sitting on the couch with them and we were just praying and like, God, you know what you're doing. We don't know what to do. We just have
Mm.
to look at you and we have to watch you because this seems so impossible to us right now. So we ended up going to the hospital, and because of that test, we're like, well, this seems like an emergency. So we went to the hospital, and they actually told us that I was having a miscarriage or an ectopic pregnancy, and it was confirmed by like all these
Oh.
doctors and tests and stuff. Um, but the whole time we were there, I just felt like God was saying, no, this is a healthy,
Wow.
normal pregnancy. And I was like, God, literally every person walking into this room right now, and
Mm.
even after we were admitted, was like, I'm so sorry, this is, a miscarriage, or if it's ectopic, we're going to know by
Wow.
these signs and we have to watch you and all this stuff. So, but I was like feeling normal. I just had a lot of pain off and on. And
Mm.
anyway, it wasn't until like 2 a.m. And your brother and Hannah, your sister-in-law,
Yes. That's
they
right.
they were like the only people we knew at the time. And
Oh
they came up
man.
to the hospital and they sat with us until like 2 a.m. until I saw this one
Mm.
doctor that ended up being my doctor. But they like were so sweet and generous with their time and so like
Mm.
just there with us in a really confusing and difficult time.
Oh.
Um, so it
Wow.
was so kind of them, but it was really funny because like I kept hearing God say, no, this is a true pregnancy. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be afraid. So when Josh and Hannah were there, we were just like playing games, like in the hospital room and like goofing around, like
Yes.
making jokes with the nurses.
That's the
Cause part of me
best.
was just like, no, like God said, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of enjoyed
Yes.
that night. It sounds really weird to say, but And then finally my doctor came in at 2 a.m. and was like, I don't want to endanger the life of the baby. And I just stopped in there. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I think this could be normal. So let's just wait and see before we make any decisions. And I'm
Wow.
so glad he said that, because they were going to like terminate the pregnancy. And so he
Whoa.
stepped in and was like, I think this could be normal. So at that point, they released me the next morning, and I just went every couple of days to get blood work. And even then, for a couple of weeks, we were hearing back from the results. We're so sorry it's a miscarriage. We're so sorry it's an ectopic pregnancy. And that was still a huge challenge of faith for me, because I kept hearing God say, no, this is normal. So finally, after a few more weeks, we did an ultrasound, and we're actually able to see Aiden where he needed to be. Everything was healthy and normal. And at that time I was 5
My
weeks
gosh.
pregnant. So it was wild, man. That was
Wow.
it was crazy. But yeah, after that kind of subsided and stuff, but everything was like a normal pregnancy. I mean, I didn't have bad morning sickness. Actually, it's funny. I had this weird aversion to like yellow, produce, like bananas and stuff.
Really?
It was bizarre. Like the color made me so nauseous. I sent Josh and Hannah home with bananas and a spaghetti squash from our apartment. So I'm like, I can't even look at this. But um, it was so gross. Yeah, but yeah, the pregnancy was like healthy after that, no major complications. His delivery was just like heavenly. God just was so present
Oh
and
my
changed my life
gosh.
through Aiden's labor and delivery. Um and then he was here, and our lives were totally turned upside down.
Wow.
In the best and the most challenging ways. But as I'm sure every mom
Yes.
understands, especially with the first baby, it's just like
Yeah.
your world has just changed. So that was our
Uh,
crazy roller coaster into parenthood. And now we're riding the roller coaster
I
of
love
parenthood.
it. Yeah, yeah, it just keeps going.
It keeps
That's
going.
amazing.
Yes.
Wow. So, what were some of the things that you did, even in that short time where the doctors were saying, like, I'm sorry, this isn't going to work out? What were some of the things that you did to like protect your heart in that space?
Hmm.
Just thinking about like other moms that might be in similar situations and they're hearing the Lord saying, this is going to be okay. Like, what did you do
Hmm.
specifically for yourself?
I stood on that word. I stood on it. I'm like, God, you told me. And I can't even say that I did it. God did it. He gave me the strength to
Yeah.
have faith. And like
Mm,
he's the one that leads us into believing more of him, and
yes.
hearing him. And so when that fear would come, I just remembered like just what he said. And God, your promises are true. And there's a song called Always Faithful. Corey Asbury wrote it years ago, but it's been covered a lot by different artists and stuff. And that was a song of that season for me. And it says, faithful, you're always faithful, true, you're always true, you never leave me, you're always with me, you're good, you're good. And that was absolutely the song for that season. And I still, even when I listen to it now, I break down and
Mm.
cry, because like God's faithfulness was so
Oh,
strong for me in that season. But even too, like the night after we conceived Aiden, little did I know, I was having some quiet time with Jesus the next morning, and I just felt God leading me to give him my dreams and like what I really wanted. And I was like, okay, God, like I really want our marriage to be in a better place, and I really want to start a family. And I felt God say,
wow.
it's done. Like, it's done. And
Wow.
it was
Oh my
wild.
gosh, that's so cool.
And I didn't even
Oh,
realize. And it was so funny, because right after I heard him say that, Matt walks in the room. I was just in our bedroom by myself, and Matt walks in the room, and he's like, hey babe, I was thinking about this in our marriage, and like we could really like pursue this or do this together, whatever. And I'm like, God, like, yeah. And then I was like, well, the
wow.
family piece, like, okay, well, God, that'll, in
Yeah.
your time or whatever. But I wrote it down
Yeah.
in my journal, and sure enough, we had
Oh
conceived Aiden
my
like that
gosh.
night. It was just
Wow, that
crazy.
is
It
incredible.
was crazy.
Oh,
So I would remind myself of that too. Like, God, not only did you do something crazy and miraculous, you told me that you were doing it and you're going to fulfill that promise. Like,
mm,
I need to believe that in you and not let my fear dictate my emotions or my
yeah.
behavior. So
Mm,
that's, yeah, when that fear would creep in, I would just remind myself through worship and through prayer and
mm.
just communing with the Lord, like, God, you said this,
Yes, that's so powerful.
crazy.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like there will be moms that hear this that will just be so encouraged by that reminder of how to stand strong and not decrease in the space of feeling, and hearing all of these things that come against what God has said is true. So I
Yeah.
just love that, and I love just the way that you. It just seems like you have this gift of faith, and I love the way that you talk about how you hear God speak, and that you believe it when you hear
Mm,
it. And sometimes I feel like it's easy, like if you're a believer and you press into the Lord and you're trying to create this, a deeper relationship with Him. Sometimes it's hard to believe that we actually hear from the God of creation, but it's so
yeah.
true, and it's so powerful to hear your experience and your journey, especially in motherhood, because I feel like if there's going to be any time that we need to hear God's voice and to understand who He is as a father is within parenthood. And so, yeah, if you're listening and you need this encouragement, just take it for yourself. I feel like there's
Yes.
just something on you, Miriam, and what you have pursued and what you've done in your own private relationship with the Father. And I just, yeah, there's just something
Mm.
really cool on you. And yeah, so good. I love it.
Thanks, Bree. Thank
Um,
you.
yes, yes. It's such a beautiful story. And I remember hearing, yeah, from Josh and Hannah when they were up there and we were like praying over you guys, and it was just
Gosh.
such a joy to like going from hearing, oh, it might be a miscarriage to no, it's normal, everything's fine, was just such a joyful moment. So we
Yes.
were cheering you on from down here.
So
So
sweet. So
yeah, that's
precious.
so cool.
Oh.
Oh, yes. Cool. Well, I would love for you to kind of share some of your passions in life, what brings you joy, and then kind of share, we can kind of go into what you do for work and how that's been transitioning into working as a new mom.
Yeah. So Matt and I both, we really love people and love ministering to people. And so, though that's not what I do for my normal daytime job necessarily, that's
Mm-hmm.
something that we really love doing together. And it's something that we both just had hearts for before we had started dating and knew each other and got married. Um, so that's a big passion of mine. I also am really passionate about health and like holistic health at that. So that's for
Mm-hmm.
myself and our family. And then two, I think I just really, I really love being a mom. Like I'm very passionate about
Yes.
loving Aiden and getting him to a place
Hmm.
where he can just be a healthy, like, contributor to society, and like loving God
Yeah.
passionately and loving people passionately. And um, so amongst all the passions, I think just some of the ones that I feel are maybe even more callings is just me being a wife and a mom, and obviously like a lover of
Mm.
Jesus, ministering to people. And the context of that changes, right? Like, you get
Yeah.
married, you have a kid, your kid grows up, and in that too, you're maybe working someplace and your job changes or you move cities or you meet different moms at school or daycare, and so the context of some of that changes, but at
Mm.
its heart and at the center, I really just feel like we're just called to love people and introduce them to the love and power of Jesus, and that
Mm.
looks really different. So anyway, but yeah, what I do for work, I work in a physical therapy clinic, and I've been in this field for a couple of years. I'm actually like 3 months into working at a different clinic. And what I do here is manage our physical therapy workshops. We have low back pain and sciatica workshops that we put on each month, and I administrate that. So I'm not a physical therapist per se. I just do admin and like customer service type of things. But this is a great way to meet people and to help people heal.
Yeah.
It's a healing environment.
Wow.
And it can get
Totally.
really messy, when people are in pain. That phrase, hurt people, so
Yeah. Yeah.
it can be hard at times, but I work with a lot of really wonderful, nurturing, caring, funny people, and I get to do
Mm.
something that I feel like there's intrinsic value in. Just by helping people feel physically better, they end up feeling emotionally better, and they get to live their lives.
Mm.
Grandmas who want to hold their babies, their grandkids, who can't do it,
Mm.
come to us for a little bit, and they all of a sudden, can get on the floor and play with their grandkids, or they can get in the pool and swim with their
Wow.
family, like these very practical, functional things that a lot of people don't think
Yeah.
about: brushing your teeth, putting on your shirt, using the restroom,
Wow.
or driving. These are very, very common things that people who are post-injury or post-surgery or just older, they have arthritis or they have a certain diagnosis. It's hard for people to do. So physical therapy through like hands-on therapy and different exercise programs and corrective movement, it just retrains your body to work properly, so
Wow.
you're not in pain, and it's without, drugs and avoiding surgery or
That's
maybe pre-op.
amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a really fun field to work in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah. So
Dang.
it's fun.
So, yeah. So how are you staying inspired day to day, like managing your time as a mom and as you work?
Oh man. Um, so like I said, I work about 45 minutes to an hour away from home. And so, I mean, that's one way. So I am in the car for like an hour and a half to 2 hours every day. Well, for 4 days a week by myself.
Wow.
And part of that
Yeah.
stinks because you're sitting in traffic, but part of that is like a really great time to worship and pray for me. Or honestly,
Yeah.
I listen to a ton of podcasts, like this one, which is how
Yes.
I started listening to so many of yours, because I have so much random commuter time on my hands. Um, but
Yes.
that's a lot. I mean, honestly, that time, like, I don't know, God just presented this opportunity for me to work here, and we just said yes. And in that, we knew that the
Mm.
commute was going to be what it is. And I think I've just decided to see that as a time that God has carved out for me to connect with Him and to
Yeah.
have to myself, because otherwise it's like, when Aiden is sleeping or like on a weekend when we happen to have like some kind of care for him,
Yeah.
I don't have that time, and I try to make time
Right.
to be, inspired or connect with myself or connect with Jesus. Like when I'm making Aiden's lunch for the next day or dinner for that night, I try, but it's so like, I'm tired at the end of the day, I'm not really
Yeah.
in the best
Yeah.
place for it. So
Totally.
honestly, it's really kind of nice having that commute, because I feel like that time is when I can pour out my heart to Jesus, or I can
Mm.
listen to podcasts even about things that like I listen to a bunch. So things that are so
Yeah.
random that are about health, or listen to a preach, or things about motherhood and different things
Mm.
like that. So to stay inspired, I think that's been a random gift, is having this random
Yeah.
commute to work.
Wow. That's so
Making the most
cool.
of a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I love that. That's so powerful though.
Yeah, there
Oh,
have been some
very
really
cool.
sweet times in the car, so I can't hate on it.
Mm. Yes. I know it's so funny the things that you have to learn to adjust to living in Southern California. The things you
Oh
never thought you'd
yes.
have to.
Oh
That's so
yes.
great. So, what are some things that you do? It sounds like that is something that kind of tends to your heart, but do you have other like practical things that you do to kind of tune into your heart and take care of yourself week to
Yeah.
week?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of baths. I really like to take baths, and
Yes.
that's sometimes with my like phone on the counter, so I can watch a TV show and take a bath at the same time.
Yeah. I
And
love
sometimes
it.
it's so lame. It's so stupid. And I bet like we share
No,
a
it's
wall with
so
our neighbors. I
nice.
bet they're like, "What is she doing in there?" It's like Parenthood playing on my iPhone loud in the bathroom.
Yes.
Um, so I am a big fan of baths. Sometimes it's that, and sometimes it's just quiet. I've recently been learning a lot about like blue light and how blue light is not good for
Oh,
your, I don't
yeah.
know, cortisol and your hormones and
Yep.
your circadian rhythm. So I've been trying to like get off my phone, turn off the TV and stuff like an hour before we try to go to bed. So I
Hmm.
try to just kind of limit that and see if it'll help my sleep, and to just to quiet down before bed, like reading a book or reading my Bible
Mm.
or just
Yep.
journaling and praying. That always seems to be a good time for that because Matt actually likes staying up a little bit later than I do. So
Mm.
it's kind of nice for me to do that. Like while he's even getting ready for bed, I can do that, and then he'll
Mm.
come to bed and we'll go to bed together. So I think just again, like trying to carve out those times where you can reflect and process,
Yeah.
that has helped me a lot and helped me reconnect with God and with my own heart of just because motherhood is so up and down. Like we said before, it's just this crazy roller coaster of
Yeah.
parenting, and things change.
Yeah.
And so carving out that time, even a couple of times a week, or ideally, every day. But I do that, and
Yeah.
and that seems to help me a lot.
That's great. Love it.
Yeah.
So, have you experienced mom guilt? And if so, what are some things that you do to overcome it?
Oh my gosh, I am so excited to answer this question. Partly because I really want some feedback on it, on like my answer.
Yeah.
So I don't really experience mom guilt um
Mm-hmm.
as much as I do just like I miss my kid when he's not around. I don't feel like I'm doing
Mm.
anything wrong, like by being
Yeah.
away from him necessarily, but I think I've just accepted the fact like, okay, we live in Southern California. If we want to live here, we
Yep.
both have to work. And that's just
Yep.
how it is. That's the context that we're in. And that's like the blessing and not the curse as if God curses, but like that's the
Yeah,
blessing
no,
and the
totally.
challenge of being here. Um, so when we moved back down here from Reading, Aiden was like 3 months old. And so I think I maybe struggled just with missing him a lot in the beginning, like his first day at daycare or first day, me going back to work. Like that was tough.
Mm.
I don't know if I would say that I felt guilty, but I just really missed him because I think in my heart of hearts, I would love to be a
Mm.
stay-at-home mom, like full time. I would love to be with him and
Mm.
and raise him. And I nannied for years before I started working like really professionally. And I loved nannying, and it set me up really well to become a mom. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like some of these
Mm.
really fundamental things I've already done before. Like this is so nice to have
That's
had
so
that
cool.
experience. Yeah, with a bunch of different families and a bunch of different kids. Um, so I think in my heart of hearts, I just really want to be around Aiden, but I don't feel guilty for being at work because I know there's a lot of value in what I bring to our workplace, just like there is with anyone in any workplace. You bring something
Yeah.
to your job. And I feel like being a mom has actually made me a better worker, to be honest. I feel like it's given me more freedom to speak my mind because I'm not as afraid of
Mm.
what people are going to say. Isn't that the weirdest thing? I don't know. I
So
just,
cool. No, I love it. That's so
it's so
powerful.
weird
I
because,
totally it is weird. I can relate in a little a little bit. I think just there's this it's just such a huge change and you feel empowered, I think, becoming a mom. And so I don't know,
yes,
for me at least, I'm like I can just try and say something, and if I mess up, I'll clean it up or whatever. I
right.
don't know.
Yes, for sure. Like, yeah. And when Aiden was born, part of why it was so amazing, like his labor and delivery, like, there was I just get so excited and emotional about it. Like God just birthed a
Hmm.
different side of me when Aiden was born. And God
Wow.
spoke so clearly to me when he was born, but it was like spirit to spirit. So it wasn't in words. I just felt God
Hmm.
maturing me, and I felt him ridding me
Yep.
of fear.
Totally.
And fear
Yep.
is something I've struggled with so much in my life. And when Aiden was born, like through my pregnancy, I think that's when it started. But then too, like I think it culminated when Aiden was born. But like Matt will even say it, and I've told him like, oh, I just felt like this is what God was doing, and He made me more bold, and He made me more tenacious, and
Hmm.
less afraid of being vulnerable, or less afraid of being honest with myself. And
Hmm.
Matt's like, yep. I completely agree. Like Aiden was born and that stuff was, and he's like
Wow.
excited, but he's like, yes, because I've wanted that side of you for so long that was so hidden or so afraid or
Wow.
whatever. And Aiden's birth, like spiritually and emotionally, just like birthed
Wow.
something else in me. So that being
Mm.
said, like going into a job, it makes me a completely different worker. You know, I feel like I have something else
Mm.
to contribute. Um, so yeah, I guess I don't in that way experience mom guilt for being away from Aiden and working, because it makes me a better worker and it helps me to bring a lot
Yeah.
more to the table. But I do miss him. You know, I do want to be home with
Yeah.
him all the time. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I don't know if I experienced mom. Does that
That's so
sound weird?
great.
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, no, no, not at all. I think that's why I love this question so much, is because there's so many different perspectives and different experiences
Yeah.
for each woman. I think I've talked to a lot of people, and it's like I've kind of always like felt guilt in certain things, but the importance is like naming it and knowing where it's coming from for
Mm,
me, and then and actually like talking to myself like, okay, I'm feeling guilty about this. Is that actually guilt, or is it shame? So going into
mm,
that has been powerful to hear from other people, but also I just love from you, it sounds like it's just you're I think just aware of the reality of where you're at, and that's okay. And it's not anything to be ashamed of or to feel guilty about. And I think that's so powerful. I think a lot of moms need to hear that, like, and just to remember, like, you're doing your best. Like, you are where you are for a
mm-hmm.
reason. And sometimes that's all you need to know. So, no, I love what you had to say about that. I think that's brilliant. Love it.
Oh, thanks. And I think too, like my
Yes.
husband is an idealist and I'm not. I'm not pessimistic by any sense of the word, but not achieving an ideal situation, I think I just accept it. So I think with that
Mm-hmm.
translating to wanting to be home full time and needing to work, I'm like, okay, that's just what we
Mm-hmm.
have to do. So I think that's why
Yeah.
I think that's kind of my
Yeah.
personality of like,
That's
you just got
awesome.
to do it and you have to make the most of it.
That's great. Okay, cool. So when you hear the word legacy, what comes to mind? Like what is the legacy that you want to leave for Aiden and for your future kids?
Um, Bill Johnson says something to the effect of, I want my ceiling to be the next generation's floor. And
Mm,
that's absolutely what we want for Aiden. We want our ceiling, the things that we have most achieved or the things that we've most worked for in our lives, whether that's in our marriage or financially or just relationally with him or just things that we do. Um, we want our best to be his beginning. You know, we want him to just launch off
mm,
of that and feel like he can go further than we ever could.
mm,
And that's not to be like self-effacing or anything. We really want him to know that like he's not bound by our struggles or failures or fears.
mm,
That he can, I don't know, he can fly, you know, like he doesn't have
mm,
to be weighed down by the things of this world or by ways that Matt and I will end up failing him, you know, because we are just
mm,
human. We are just human and
mm,
we love him so much and we have such dreams and hopes for him, but at the same time we don't want to put those dreams and hopes on him in a sense of pressuring him to be something. We
mm,
want to demonstrate to him what it is to really live in freedom and to love deeply and to love without fear.
mm,
um, so yeah, when I think of legacy, I think of just building. I just think of that phrase, like I want our ceiling to be his floor. I want him um, to start with our best, you know, that he can go further
mm.
than what we were able to attain, whether spiritually or relationally or however. So
Yeah,
yeah, even too when
that's
he was
awesome.
conceived, like when he was when I was pregnant with him, we were praying about a name and Solomon kept coming back into my mind, and obviously his name is Aiden, but I just felt like this spirit of Solomon about him, like
Mm,
from the
wow.
Bible, like someone who thinks very deeply and is very emotional and contemplative, but also very like
Wow.
passionate and wise. and was
Wow.
trusted with a lot. Um, so when I think about legacy, I think of like as a parent, gosh, it still feels so weird to say as a parent because he's so young, and I feel like you
Yeah.
got to
No,
earn
I
it. I don't know. I
totally.
feel like I haven't earned it yet, but
Oh my
anyway,
gosh.
I think about like how can I best set Aiden up to walk in the calling that God has given him, and I feel so much over
Mm.
his life, like a spirit of Solomon, to love deeply, to be successful, to be wise, to be a leader, you know? And so I think about those things too, leaving a legacy. Like, what does it look like to shepherd this little boy into his destiny? So much so that when we're gone, um, he can walk firmly in what he knows is true about God and the world.
Mm.
So, um,
That's
yeah.
so good. That's so powerful. And I love even you sharing like what you heard spoken over him, what you feel like God is speaking over his life. And yeah, I think that's so
Yeah.
powerful. And I think just a good reminder as believers to ask the Lord what he sees in our children and
Yeah.
how to, I don't know, treasure that and also help foster it. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, Miriam, this has been so good. I
Yeah.
like to end with some fun questions.
Yeah.
So the first would be, do you have a favorite product for yourself or for Aiden that you would recommend to other mamas?
Yes. Yes. I have a couple.
Okay, cool.
The first being a robot vacuum, and I know it's an investment, but it has
Oh,
more than paid off for us. And I'm not even joking. It sounds so
nice.
stupid, but I'm not even kidding.
No, that's awesome.
It's like,
That's a first on the show to hear that product, and
gosh,
I'm very happy. That's awesome.
I can't even tell you. We joke that we named it Meat Mort because we would always, I don't know, I think
Ah,
Josh and Hannah
yes.
always said something
Yes,
about Meat Mort. Yeah.
they do. They do.
Yes. So we named it Meat Morp, and
Uh,
Aiden tries to say it, and it's the cutest thing. I can't
oh
even
my
like imitate it, but he tries to call it Meat Morp, and
gosh.
he can't. But
Oh,
anyway,
that's so cute.
yeah, a robot vacuum. I can't tell you. It's like Matt and I feel like it's such a luxury. Like everyone has to buy a vacuum. So just
Yeah.
save up your
Yeah.
pennies and then purchase one. We got it on
Amen.
Black Friday, so we got it super cheap. And it
Nice.
saved us hours of vacuuming that no one wants to do. Like no one wants to do. You
Yes.
would much rather be on the floor playing with your baby. So just, set it on
Mm,
whatever and let it go. And it's like therapeutic for us. We're like, oh my gosh, the carpet's clean. Oh my gosh, it's so nice. It's so stupid,
that's
but
so great.
yeah, that
No,
is
I
like
love it.
if you want to invest in something, I would say that. But
Uh-huh.
products that we like use. So I'm also a beauty counter consultant. Beauty Counter is a safer beauty company,
Yes.
and it's seriously changed my life. So there are two
That's
products from
amazing.
Beauty Counter that I really truly love that are non-toxic and super effective, like really high working products. And one is their charcoal bar. I use that on my face. You can also use it on your
Ooh.
body. But it's super cleansing, really balancing for your skin. And I swear I have struggled with acne my entire freaking life. And this is like, especially when you're pregnant, you can't put a lot of stuff on your skin that's like
Yeah.
pharmaceuticals or whatever. So when I got pregnant, that's when I stopped using all that stuff. And that's when I found Beauty Counter and became a consultant. And this charcoal bar really balanced out my skin, even unlike the
Wow.
things I had used before that was like pharmaceutical grade stuff
No
and super
way.
toxic. So I was like, okay, sweet. So I
Dang.
would definitely recommend the charcoal bar for any mom, even postpartum too. And breastfeeding, your hormones are just so up and down
Yeah.
and everywhere.
Oh,
And
yeah.
your skin can just, it can take a toll on your skin. So that, and then for Aiden, I use it's called their baby soothing oil. It has like jojoba and coconut oil. It has like a lot of really luscious moisturizing oils, but it's a dry oil. So when you put it on, it absorbs nicely and quickly into the skin. So it's not that
Oh,
greasy
cool.
feeling. Yeah.
Oh,
So it's
nice.
been a lifesaver. I used it last fall on Aiden's cheeks. He had really bad dry skin on his cheeks, like a lot of babies do in the fall, especially in this area.
Yeah.
We have the Santa Ana winds, and it
Yeah.
can chap their skin pretty bad. So I used it on his face, and it cleared it up. Like one of our daycare workers was like, "Where did you get this? Because all of the babies need this in daycare." It was
Wow.
awesome. So that's
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 great.
my other product that I would recommend. But two, I just also want to like, I was thinking about this before we got on the podcast, and like Matt and I, when we were in Reading, when we were pregnant with Aiden and after Aiden came into the world, like we were in financial hardship big time. Like we were just we had to make it work, you know? And so
Wow.
even though I'm talking about this stupid, expensive vacuum cleaner and like beauty products, like
Yeah.
I want to make it clear, like I have a heart for the moms who they don't even have a
Mm,
budget for this, you know, like this is not something that's a
yeah.
line item in our monthly budget and we cannot save towards something
Yeah.
like that. So I want to
Yeah.
say like you can make really easy stuff work
Oh,
too. Like get yourself a thing of baking soda and coconut oil and arrowroot powder and you can like make your own deodorant. You can use apple cider vinegar for just
yeah.
about anything, you know, like so
Yep.
I
That's
just
so
I
good.
want to say like you don't have to have nice expensive things to
Yeah.
just make it work and I empathize so hard with those moms that are in that situation because
Mm,
we were just there, you know, and I just want to make that
mm,
clear too. But yeah.
I love that. Oh, that's so good. I really appreciate that. Because I know I've been there too, and it's always up and down as a new parent. So I appreciate that too.
Yeah.
But I would love to, if you're willing, maybe we could add your, I don't know if you have like a consultant ID or something we could add if anyone's interested
Yeah,
in purchasing any of those
for
items. That would
sure.
be awesome.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And then do you guys have a favorite holiday family tradition yet? I
Mm,
know it's still early,
it
but
is. So not between the three of us, but with Matt's family, we always do like Christmas. We read the Christmas story before opening gifts and stuff like that on Christmas morning.
mm,
And there was one year, oh my gosh, there was not a dry eye in the house. It was maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago,
wow.
but we like read the Christmas story and then we went around and like personally gave, like we did a Secret Santa and we personally handed our Secret Santa the gift and told them something that we appreciate about them and we were all sobbing. It
Oh.
was like the ugly cry.
Oh
Like
my gosh. That's so cool.
it was awesome. And that's something I really
Oh.
appreciate about his family. And they're close. My family's in Texas, so that's why I mentioned them because we spend a lot of our
Yeah.
holidays here. But um, that's one thing that I really appreciate. They really value family time. And anyway, so
Oh.
that's one tradition that Aiden will definitely take part in. He'll probably be like, I remember as a kid though, you know, you're like, stop with all the religious stuff. Let's open the presents, you know, like this is
I
not,
know.
you know, like, what are you doing?
Totally. There's
So,
seasons, right?
yes.
Yeah. I love it.
So Aiden will have to
That's
learn that
hilarious.
that's what we
Yeah.
do. But other than that, we don't really have
Yeah.
any Christmas or like holiday traditions. Though I'm like so excited for this Christmas because Aiden will be like a toddler. He was just a little guy last year, but hopefully
Mm.
he can participate in
Mm-hmm.
something different this year. So I'm on the hunt,
That's so
all to
fun.
say.
Yes. Love it. That's great.
Yeah.
And then one piece of advice you give to a new mom.
To ask for help and yeah, ask for help, but to have the assurance that you know your baby best. That would be my advice.
Mm, that's
Plain and
great.
simple.
Yep. I love it. Miriam, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to share your story and advice. I'm so, so grateful and excited to share this. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Bree. I really appreciate you having me on. It's been such a gift, such a gift.
Yes. Oh, yes. So, so happy to do so.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's interview. Please share this with a friend if it impacted you in any way, and leave a review on iTunes so other mamas can hear the truth that they are enough and they are doing their very best. Be sure to catch up on what's happening in the Mommispace community every day on Instagram at Mommispace, And you can email me at mommispace@gmail.com for questions or interview recommendations. All my love to you, Mama. You're amazing. See you next week. Just to say that I'm the one you love. It's so